Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of JNA News Dash, where two full-time realtors turn into part-time newscasters. So today we have Grace and myself. So right here we're going to be linking our Telegram channel where we are going to be sharing our daily real estate market news updates as well as any partnership discounts. So if you're interested, do subscribe.
Today we'll be sharing with you a couple of news from DaF Residences where owners are paying exorbitant amount for their MCST fees to Raffles Town Club actually moving out and potentially becoming a residential plot.
Yeah. And we also have Watten House. So let's get into more details now. First up, we have owners of DaF Residences getting dismayed at the MCST fees that they have to pay after key collection.
Yeah, so I think this is the time where a lot of the owners are getting their keys. But before they do that, they have to pay a certain fees. And a lot of them are taken aback by the crazy amount of MCST fee, which they were not expecting.
Yeah.
So I think at the start, they were told about $260 to $280 for the management fees. And now it has gone up to almost $700.
Yeah. So I think some background, right? Usually for new developments, when you actually go to the show flat, you would get a brochure on the estimated monthly maintenance fees that you would have to actually pay once keys are collected. But in this case, prior to the key collection, usually owners are required to pay MCST fees of upfront 6 months. And in this case, owners of DaF Residences, they got a lawyer's letter that they had to pay around $700 a month as compared to around $260 to $280 when they first visited the show flat. So this caught them by surprise, and we all know that they're not really very happy.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of them, they are kind of at a loss because they don't want to delay the key collection any further. So a lot of them are actually giving in, actually just paying this amount upfront first. And in the news, I think it mentioned that, they've decided after they collect the keys, then maybe they'll come together and speak to the developer to see if anything can be resolved, just because the amount is such a big difference from what they actually expected. So I think about 20 of them have actually formed a group with the developer and they are in liaising, but many other owners are caught out of the loop.
So what we are seeing right here is that, despite the discussions and the communications that they're trying to have with the developer, they have not really been getting a lot of replies or explanation on why there was such a huge jump. So one of the main reasons highlighted here on why the cost actually increased so much was because of the COVID-19 cost. And a lot of these owners, because they're actually currently renting while waiting for their house, they don't really want to delay this any further and decided to just pay it off first and actually get an explanation later on after key collection.
Yeah, I know how frustrating it must be for, these owners where they are in a position where they don't really have a choice. Yeah. But hopefully, things get resolved after they collect the keys for this affected owners also.
Yeah. So last week, we actually shared with you guys some updates on how Hillock Green performed as well as Jaden. And this week, we saw that Watten House has actually sold 57% of their total supply. So that's about 102 units out of the 180 units at an average price of $3,230 per square foot.
Yeah, which is something that's expected because of the demand in the area also. And there's a lot of demand in the area, but you wouldn't see a lot of supply. People are buying for schools and for the location itself. And what's happening is that after the launch weekend, the developers have actually closed the show flat and they're going to continue selling next year. And I think it's an interesting phenomenon that, developers are kind of closing the show flat and deciding to sell it next year. I think one of the reasons is also because they're confident and there's not much competition and supply in the area. And the huge demand, in the area where people are buying for schools, I think that's why they're also holding on until next year, because year end is usually when it's a little bit more quiet. People are going for the holidays. So next year is when they're going to restart the sale again.
Yeah, so actually we have sold a couple properties around that area, around Tan Kaki MRT station, which is nearby where Watten House is. And actually, if you're based on the on-the-ground feedback, on the profile that we are seeing, actually majority are Singaporeans and PRs, and background is mostly families who are looking for schools for their kids, where they're either alumni or trying to get their kids into the school within 1 to 2 km. Yep. First, it's Nanyang Primary, Raffles Girls, and there's also Hwa Chong. They don't usually buy for Hwa Chong, but mainly for the primary schools. Looking at the 102 units that were purchased, 96% of these buyers are Singaporeans and PRs, mainly buying for own stay, as we mentioned earlier, because of the schools that's nearby within 1 km to Nanyang, as well as Raffles Girls Primary School.
Yeah, so I think the demand is very high especially for these CCR properties where they are very close to good schools, and you don't see much supply of such properties coming up. And we would expect that these demands continue on to next year also.
Yeah. Next up, we have Raffles Town Club that is going to be potentially used for residential in the future after the lease expiry in 2026. So we have another 3 more years from today.
So some background on Raffles Town Club. He has been around since 2000, so about 23 years, and now offers various amenities to people around the area, including gym, tennis court, as well as a pool. So I think a lot of people will be missing out also. And they have, I think, up to another 3 years to actually enjoy the facilities over there.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't really know where Raffles Town Club is, it's actually located right across Stevens MRT station. So it's right in between Botanic Gardens as well as Newton. So it's actually a very convenient location, also very nearby top schools. So based on this site right here, we are estimating about 160 to 190 residential units that can be potentially built in this area.
So I think some background or interesting fact was also that it actually faced some legal issues back then when they just opened, just because they sold so many, I think close to 5,000 memberships, when it was actually termed or packaged to be like a private club. So I think when people actually went in, it was overcrowded and they were very unhappy also.
Yeah. So actually, we are really excited with all this CCR project that's coming up with Singapore optimizing the land usage, especially in the CCR area where not a lot of freehold developments have been coming up. If we are looking at all the new developments, they have been sold out since early this year or late last year. And if you're looking for 4 bedrooms, new development, you don't really have a lot of options for something that's freehold.
Yeah, so I think what this would mean is that, this club would then be moving out and people would then have to find an alternative. And it also did mention that if they do want to continue as a club, they can actually negotiate with the government to see if there are any other plots that they can actually go in for tender also.
Yeah, not at this current location.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So next up, we have Jita Shopping Centre that was sold for $91.68 million. Earlier this June or July, it was actually opened up for around 85 million. So they were very surprised to be able to actually get such a good demand and price at 91.68 million. So Jita Shopping Centre actually has 57 car park spaces, for fun fact. And a lot of the residents in the area, especially those living in Holland, in Bukit Timah, they love coming here for their grocery shopping. So on the second floor, they also have Starbucks and Delifrance, which they would actually go for their tea time.
High tea.
For their high tea. Not high tea. Nobody goes for high tea at Starbucks. But they're going to be changing and potentially refurbishing the entire space from cold storage to CS Fresh outlet.
So I think at this point, there is no confirmation yet on what's going to be happening to the property. There could be a refurbishment of the tenants inside, or it could also be teared down because the land is actually residential plus commercial. So it could also be a mixed-use development. So at this point, there's no confirmation yet.
Yeah. So this is all that we have for the week. Thank you so much for tuning in to JNA's News Dash. This is Geraldine.
This is Grace. We'll see you the next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.